Hey guys, this is the second video for my Inkscape tutorials. I'm going to show you a couple things real quick that I've done in Inkscape, and again, keep in mind I'm not an artist, I guess you could say, and so like I'm really just trying to give you an example. I'm not trying to show off because I think my stuff is subpar, if that's even a word or the correct way to say it, but subpar. So. But yeah, I mean, here's a couple of things that you can do. Like for instance, like I made this little lion guy. I was making a design for a company that for shin guards, and they play a lot of field hockey. And I don't know anything about field hockey or anything. I was trying to make it interesting, and so I did this for them. And needless to say, they ended up not buying it, and I was okay with that because honestly, I didn't know what I was doing to begin with. I've never played the sport, let alone watched it. But yeah, I mean, like you see, and this is actually without this green. This is a how do you okay okay, this green background is an object of itself in Inkscape, and I'd show you, but the files are on a different computer. However, if you were to move the green square away, it would turn to whatever color was behind it, because all of these lines and everything were they were colorless. They were see-through. The words escaping me for it. But so yeah, and that was a challenge in itself, because like if you see here, like the little one is kind of like poking into the stick, and you can see that because I wasn't allowed to use any colors. They wanted a black outline with no colors in the middle. And but that's one of those things that Inkscape can do. However, it was pretty challenging. What else do we got here? Okay, this was this was a logo for a fitness website that I actually did sell. And this picture right here, I took off the internet, and I traced it with a bitmap tracer on Inkscape, and cut out the part that I wanted. And I made these, and you can see there's little gradients in here and everything. And the circle has a gradient on it and all that. And this was another one I did just in case they didn't like the first one. I ended up giving them both of them. And you can see the shadow behind there, and that was really easy. All I did was copy the focus no limits, and then kind of transform it a little bit and lay it behind everything. And I'll show you guys how to do something like that. This is a 3D button, and this is actually surprisingly easy to do. It just requires, I think there was 1, 2, 3, 4 rectangles with curved corners and some gradients, and it worked perfectly. I mean, and I'll show you guys how to make something like that also. And this is a logo, a fake logo that I made. Troll Group International does not exist. If somebody starts it though, I want a membership. And yes, you can use the logo. But what I was trying to show off here was my ability to make logos, and I would say that I'm all right when it comes to simple stuff like this. I might have gone a little bit too full on the white right here. It could have been a little more opaque or something. But yeah, I mean that's just me. I'm not a great graphic designer. But keep in mind, I've never actually had training or anything. All this is just based off free programs and free education that you can find online, just like this video. So keep that in mind. And if you visit my website, there's going to be a link at the bottom of every video that I do instruction-wise. Whenever the website's finished, I'm going to put those links on there, and it'll take you to the website, and you're going to get video tutorials and written tutorials and some other cool stuff, plus programs you might need that you never knew existed, and they're all free. And the website's free. I'm not out to make money or anything. I'm just trying to spread a little education. And yeah. Okay, so this one, and you can actually find a tutorial on YouTube for this rusted looking ring, and you might be able to do it better than I did. But I did the same effects to the gear, to the rusty gears text right there, as the gear itself, just as just showing I could do that. And because I was trying to I'm still trying to get customers and stuff. Hey, if you need anything, shameless plug-in right here. No, I'm just playing. Okay, so, and this was done with a freehand tool, and I added a couple of this was actually, there's two objects of the same kind, one's behind the other one, but one of them has like a feathered glow to it, and that's what caused this glowing effect and everything. And I know this is a little girly and everything, but I was following a tutorial myself, and it was showing me how to do stuff. And it didn't come out anything like the tutorial, because I've been using Inkscape so long that I just kind of take the information I get and do my own thing. But then I've always been like that. And you guys might be doing the same thing, and that's okay. But yeah, and so as you can see, there's a gradient from there to there. There's a bit of a gradient on the objects itself because all these lines are one object when you group them together, and I'll show you a little bit about that. And so there's a gradient there, and then there's another object under it that's glowing, and that's what's causing that. Let's see here. This one, that's just font and a tree. Yes, I made the tree in there, and I know this looks ridiculous, but I mean I made it, so whatever. And this is another one, and this I used the spiral tool on both sides with the gradient, and it went from white to opaque, completely opaque, and that's what caused this. And then I actually broke down this font into an object, or no, I'm sorry, into a path, and then I selected the little dots on the eye themselves, and I made them green. And I'll show you a little bit about fonts here too. And this one, I entered this as a Tablets for Geeks was looking for a new logo, and I thought this was awesome at the time. But seeing a new logo, it's just way better than this. So yeah, this isn't being used, and I never worked for Tablets for Geeks, but yeah, I did make this. This was a design, and I actually messed up on this. No, actually, I messed up on the original version of it because what I did is I went from brown to opaque. So whenever you put it on a black background, it shows black. And just like if you put it on a white background, it shows black or white. But I guess I went back and I redid it. And again, Wacky Shirts did not use my design. I don't know if they actually ever found another design. And Candy Shop, that was just an example, just like with the car rental thing. And in events, they did not use this either. However, I did sell this to a guy in Australia for I think $30. It was really fun to make, and it didn't take very long. Just different texts and everything. It was a couple circles, and I used a couple of things I'm going to show you with the plus and minus buttons. One cool thing, and again, this was a nightclub in Britain. They didn't want the design, but and that's solely based off my skills as an artist, not the program itself. I've seen some fantastic, just crazy things off of Inkscape that you'd never expect that I can't do personally, just because I don't have the sense to. I guess I don't know. Yeah, and that's just another fake logo that I made, not for anybody in particular. And Rent Scene, I never actually proposed this to them. I made it, and then I was like, nah, I don't think I'm going to do that. But there's a lot of freelance sites. So if you get to a point where you think you're good enough to sell your work, you can go to like peopleperhour.com or iFreelance or Freelancer, and there's people looking for work to be done, both with the graphic design, web design, programming. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do to make a little extra cash. You just got to have the skill to do it. And me personally, I'm more, and I still haven't really found my niche yet, and I have made a good couple bucks off of doing this kind of work, but I still have a job, just because I'm not at the point where I can, just quit and do this full time. I would love to, but it's going to be a little while. Okay, so back to Inkscape itself. Okay, we were going to look at filters and the select tool. Now, first let's do the select tool. I'm going to make a couple of circles here, just to give you an idea of what we're doing. And also, if you hold Control Shift and then drag the circle, well, that wasn't right at all. Actually, forget that I said that. If you hold Control, it'll make a perfect oval, or it'll make a perfect circle, depending on where your mouse is. But it's just like the Bezier curve tool. And I believe it's the same thing with the square too. Control, and a lot of things with Inkscape. Inkscape has a whole lot of hotkeys. Most of them involving Control and Shift. But yeah, you can do a lot of things on Inkscape without using the commands, like from your file, edit, view, layer menus. And so that's really good. It's really convenient. If anything. So I'm going to go ahead and change a couple of colors of these circles here so that we can see what's going on. Now I've got them stacked, as you can see. The blues in the back, yellows in the middle, reds up front. But let's say I want the blue up front. Well, I have the select tool, and up here we have a couple of options. We have raise selection to the top. So I raised it to the top. Now we have raise selection one step to the top. Now, so let's go ahead and send it back. And if, let's say, I don't want it at the top, I want it in the middle. Well, bam. So I just raised it up one. Or I can raise it all the way to the top. or I can drop it one object down. It doesn't matter how many objects you have. You can drop it all the way to the bottom. You can drop it down once. And Illustrator has a tool like that too. And okay, so I want it all the way at the bottom now. And I can't. Well, I guess I can show you. Let's go ahead and move this over here real quick. I'm going to put a gradient on this, and the reason why I'm going to do this is because I want to show you guys a pretty nifty little tool with Select. It comes in handy, especially you can do a lot of copy and paste work when it comes to design. As long as things are symmetrical, the way the design is supposed to be, you can use the same thing on both sides and just flip it. And the way you do that is like this is a rotate 90 degrees. See, it's rotating at 90 degrees every time I click it, and this is a clockwise 90 degrees. This is going to flip it horizontally, which you can't see until, hold on, check it out. See, rotate 90, flip it horizontally, bam, there you go. Also, you can flip it vertically. In order to show that, though, I have to rotate it again. You see how it does that? And so, like, let's say you're drawing a character with feet. Well, both of his feet are going to look the same if he's facing the camera. So what you can do is you can just copy the foot, flip it horizontally, and maybe position a little bit, and there you go. You've got both feet done. You didn't have to draw both feet. And that's just kind of a little thing that comes with graphic design work, where you want to cut as many corners as possible, because that way you have extra time to put more thought into the project. Whereas if you're constantly designing every little part of every little thing every time, it takes away from your ability to take a step back and see what needs to be done, because everybody wants to do the best work possible. Yeah. So okay. So here's your deselect tool. Here's your select all tool, and select all objects or all nodes. Okay, and I guess that selects nodes as well as objects, but I mean, but at the same time, and again, on the keyboards, there's shortcuts. Like, so you can hit Control A, it's going to select them all. Or I believe, well, let's go ahead and look real quick, because I haven't actually deselected anything. Okay, yeah, right here. Okay, so you've got your select. It's Control A. Select all layers, all layers, and we'll get into layers here in a little while. Control Alt A, invert selection, which, like, let's say, okay, let's see if it'll work like this. I select the yellow and go to view, or no, edit, I'm sorry, and then invert the selection. See, it selects those two, but it deselects the one that you want. So, I mean, like, let's say you want these, well, okay. Well, let's say you're working, right, and you select one of the objects, and you're like, oh, I need that green, and instead of like clicking on them, and I know it's taking longer than it should because that's an exclamation mark. So let's go ahead and use the hotkey real quick. So like you make that, let's change the color again. Let's make that light blue, and then like shift there, bam. That was shift 1, which makes an exclamation mark. And so that's a little easier than like clicking off of it and then clicking this one and then holding shift and then clicking this one, because that's how you select multiple objects, is you hold shift and click on them, and it'll do that. If you don't hold shift, it's only going to select one at a time, you see. And so yeah, so you can invert it pretty easily, but and when you're working in layers, that's really good. If you don't use layers and you've got a bunch of objects, it's not going to do you much good, because you can't invert your selection, and or it'll select everything else, and then you got to deselect stuff, and it's a bit of a mess. But also to deselect, by the way, so you hold shift to click to select multiple objects, and you can hold shift and click on the selected objects to deselect them, just like you can click on it. Well, no, you can't do it that way. Sorry. But yeah, and also if you double click on an object, it'll take you to its default tool. So let's make a square, and then go back to our select, and then double click on it. Bam. See that? But if you hit spacebar, you get your selector tool back. Isn't that cool? Okay. And these are your these are just different scaling effects that you can use, and I don't know. We haven't done strokes yet, so let's let's add a stroke real quick. And actually, these are already selected, and I was kind of wondering, So you can actually deselect them and they'll do different things. But let's add a stroke to this square. Now the way I do it, there's the kind of the long way to do it where you double click on this, open your fill and stroke, which can also, by the way, be found right here under objects. Your fill and stroke will open the same window. I'll just double click on it, but then again, there's a third way to do it, which is Shift Control F, and that's easy too. And I've actually never used that just because I don't know. And I use a lot of hotkeys. That's just one I haven't used, but I always just double click on that, and you can go to your stroke paint, and then it says it's selected as no paint right now, so you'd have to go to solid paint, or you can go to gradients even, or you can go to radial gradients, or and I don't know what this one is, patterns, I guess. I didn't know there were patterns. Okay, wow, that's cool. So there's different stripes, checkers, polka dots. Wow, that is really cool. And the same thing goes for, and I'm gonna put this on a solid one real quick. It's on black. That's okay. And you can do the same thing for fills. See, they made it striped, and then we can go down here and let's say we want to do camouflaged. Wow, that's actually really nifty. But you can't change the color of the camouflage. Found that one out. Swatches. And swatches are kind of like patterns. Well, I'm not an expert on swatches, so I'm not gonna go into it. Okay, and this one, and these buttons, well, I'll show you something that kind of has the same effect, but you can play with those if you want. But first, we've got a stroke on here. Oh, one thing you do have to do that you can't do, this right here is your opacity. And these deal with layers, and we'll look at that. One thing that you can't do without this menu that I know of, and now somebody might know how to do it, in which case please tell me, that'd be cool, is you can't change the stroke width unless you open up your fill and stroke menu. And then you have to go to stroke style, and right here where it says width, now I'm going to put a 10 pixel width on the stroke because you can see it that way, right? Okay, now a couple of things you can do with strokes. One, and I think I said this, to select a stroke color, you just hold shift and click the color. Now if you don't hold shift, see what it does, it changes the object itself. We don't want to do that. So we're going to do that, and then we hold shift to change the fill color. And then we can do things like, let's see here, stroke to path. And you see what it's done here? It's got 3 nodes over here on each corner because I guess it's kind of rounded. I don't know. But it's also got nodes in there, and see how you can kind of adjust it just however you want. Now, granted, it did change to a path itself. Like, it's no longer a stroke; it is a path, and you can put a stroke on this path now. You see, and it kind of puts a path inside of a path, but it's all one object. Whereas, and there's ways to do this using just the Bezier curve tool. But this is actually just really kind of a cool way to like do it easily, and you just make the object convert it to a path, and you're done. You're out for lunch. So yeah, I mean that's really a cool thing that this program does. What else here? Okay. Yeah, let's do grouping. So I'm gonna go hit Control A, and obviously another way to do that is to go down here to select all, and I don't like doing that. So I just hit Control A. Now to group it, you can go to Object and you can go to Group, wherever that is. Boom. But who wants to like click Object and stuff, right? When you can just like Control G and bam, it's all one object. And then if you change the color, it all turns the same color because it's all technically the same object. Everything is not select, or everything is unselected, right? Normally when you click your select tool and you click on an object, it selects that object. But because everything is grouped, everything gets selected. Now to ungroup, you hit Control Shift G. Control G groups it, Control Shift ungroups it, right? And so now everything is its own object again. And that's kind of okay. Well, there is this option too, where you can select everything, and then you can combine it. But see, it does a little bit different than grouping it, and I think the difference is that this has just become you see how there's a little bit of overhang here on both sides, which means it's actually here. Let's undo this real quick, and I'll show you guys a better example. Okay, so I'm going to let this overhang quite a bit, right? And then we're going to select it all and combine it. For one, notice that it takes the same stroke as whatever it is. It's because it literally, grouping it groups the objects together. It's not technically one object, it's just a bunch of objects grouped together. Whereas combining an object, it actually combines it into one thing. And you see how there's overhang because this isn't above this one isn't above that one. They're on the same exact level. So we went ahead and just said, there you go. Which is cool. I mean, that kind of looks like the Olympic rings turned sideways, missing about 4 of them or something. But you know, it's pretty nifty. Let's see what else. You know what? That's actually going to be everything. We went over the select tool. We went over a couple of other things like stroke and everything. We didn't get to filters yet, so we're going to do this. We're going to do that in the next video. But yeah, until then, just go ahead and if you can, watch the next video, and we will. What is the deal here? Sorry, guys. I'm having technical issues. But yeah, in the next video, we're going to go ahead and go over filters and stuff, and yeah, it'll be pretty cool. So you need to watch it.